There is a billionaire in America who owns more land than some entire countries. He is not Elon Musk. He is not Jeff Bezos. He is not Mark Zuckerberg. Most people have never heard his name, and that is exactly how he wants it. His name is John Malone, and while every other billionaire was busy chasing headlines and building rockets and buying social media companies, John Malone was quietly buying the ground beneath everyone's feet. Not a few acres, not a ranch or two, more than 2 million acres of American land. To put that in perspective, that is larger than the entire country of Delaware, larger than Rhode Island, larger than some nations that have their own seats at the United Nations, and almost nobody outside of certain financial circles knows his name. That is not an accident. John Malone grew up in Milford, Connecticut in the 1940s. He was the kind of kid who was good at everything without making much noise about it. He earned a degree in economics and electrical engineering from Yale, then a master's degree, then a PhD from Johns Hopkins. 3 elite degrees before most people figure out what they want to do with their lives. He went to work in the cable television industry at a time when cable was considered a second-rate business that serious people avoided. Everyone was focused on broadcast television, the big networks, the glamorous side of media. Malone saw something different. He saw infrastructure. He saw the pipes that content would eventually flow through. And he understood before almost anyone else that the pipes would eventually be worth more than what flowed through them. He took over a struggling cable company called Telecommunications Inc. in the 1970s. TCI was a mess, debt everywhere, operations scattered and inefficient. Most people in the industry thought he had made a career-ending mistake. He spent the next 2 decades turning TCI into one of the most powerful media companies in America. Not by being flashy, not by giving interviews or appearing on magazine covers, by making deal after deal after deal with a level of financial precision that made Wall Street analysts genuinely nervous. He understood tax structures and debt leverage and long-term asset value in ways that most business people simply did not. He was once described by a competitor as the most dangerous man in cable, not because he was aggressive in the obvious way, because he was always thinking 10 moves ahead while everyone else was thinking 2. In 1998, he sold TCI to AT&T for $48 billion, one of the largest media deals in American history at the time. He walked away with a fortune that most people would have immediately spent on the most visible symbols of extreme wealth they could find. He bought land. The first major purchase was in New Mexico, then Colorado, then Maine, then Wyoming, then New Hampshire. State by state, he acquired enormous tracts of forest and ranch land and wilderness, working ranches where cattle still graze, forest land that produces timber income, conservation land that he is committed to preserving in its natural state, water rights attached to rivers and lakes on properties that span entire mountain ranges. And here is what most people completely miss when they hear about John Malone's land holdings. This is not a hobby. This is not an eccentric rich man collecting dirt. This is one of the most sophisticated long-term investment strategies ever executed by a private individual. Think about what land actually is. It is the one asset that cannot be manufactured. You cannot print more of it. You cannot build more of it. The total amount of land on Earth is fixed, and it has been fixed since the beginning of time. Meanwhile, the global population keeps growing. Cities keep expanding. Farmable land keeps shrinking. Clean water becomes increasingly scarce. Timber demand keeps rising. Every single trend pointing toward the future points toward land becoming more valuable, not less. While stock markets rise and fall and crash and recover and crash again. While currencies inflate and deflate. While technologies that seemed permanent become obsolete within a decade. Land sits there, producing, appreciating, waiting. Malone's forests generate timber revenue every year. His ranches produce agricultural income. His water rights in drought-prone regions of the American West are becoming more valuable with each passing year as water scarcity becomes one of the defining resource challenges of this century. He is not just sitting on land. He is sitting on a diversified income-generating empire that becomes more strategically valuable the longer he holds it. And unlike a stock portfolio that anyone can see in real time, nobody knows exactly what his land is worth today. It is private, it is quiet. It is completely outside the daily noise of financial markets, which is precisely the point. There is another dimension to what Malone has built that goes beyond pure financial strategy. Privacy, real privacy, not the kind you get by hiring security guards and building walls around a mansion. The kind you get when the nearest neighbor is 40 miles away. When you can walk outside your door and see nothing but mountains and forest and sky in every direction. When no photographer with a telephoto lens can get close enough to matter. When the noise of the world simply cannot reach you because you have placed enough land between yourself and everything else. For a man who spent decades operating at the highest levels of American business, making decisions that affected millions of cable subscribers and billions of dollars of market value, the ability to stand on your own land and hear absolute silence. That is not a luxury. That is a necessity. Malone has spoken about land ownership in terms that reveal something important about how the ultra-wealthy think about wealth at its deepest level. He has said that land is the most honest investment. It does not lie to you. It does not have quarterly earnings calls where executives spin bad news into good stories. It does not have a board of directors that can vote to dilute your ownership. It does not have a CEO who can make one catastrophic decision and destroy the value you spent years building. It just exists. And over time, it rewards the people patient enough to hold it. John Malone is now in his 80s. He has given significant portions of his land holdings to conservation organizations, ensuring that millions of acres of American wilderness will remain undeveloped in perpetuity. His legacy will not be the cable company he built or the billions he made from selling it. His legacy will be written in forests and rivers and mountain ranges that will exist long after every stock certificate from every company he ever touched has turned to dust. Most billionaires want to be remembered for what they built. John Malone will be remembered for what he preserved. And here is the thought that should stay with you long after this video ends. Every single piece of land John Malone owns today was available for purchase at some point. It was sitting there, waiting, while everyone else was chasing the next hot stock or the next tech company or the next thing that promised to make them rich quickly. He was looking at the ground, the oldest investment on Earth. The one that has been making patient people wealthy since the beginning of human civilization. He just did it at a scale that nobody else thought to attempt. So here is the question. If you had the resources to invest in something that would still be generating wealth for your grandchildren's grandchildren, would you think small enough to buy a stock or big enough to buy the land it sits on? Comment below. Follow Hidden Wealth for more stories about the billionaires who built their fortunes in ways that nobody saw coming until it was already done.